What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. Join us now as we look at this week's edition of the Upside Down Raw, as well as the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including the truth behind Chris Jericho's WWE return, the real reason why CM Punk retained and Bron Breakker lost, is Stephanie VAQUER'S injury real, the reason behind 2 WWE title changes, has Stone Cold given up beer, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos. Now, as always, we won't recap the show, but just look at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. As always, we start off with the good, is number 1, new champions crowned. Now, the undisputed highlight of Raw last night was a women's tag team title match. Io Sky and Rhea Ripley are now the new tag team champions, and the match versus the Kabuki Warriors was tremendous as expected. It'll be interesting to see what direction WWE takes Ripley and Sky as we head into WrestleMania season, and it wouldn't come as a surprise if Ripley isn't in a world title matchup on the grand stage. Number 2, Gunther vs AJ Styles. Gunther is officially in a feud with AJ Styles, and their promo segment on Raw had the right balance of intensity and passion. It's a surprise that the match is taking place next week on Raw rather than WrestleMania, as this was heavily rumored to be AJ's retirement match. It doesn't appear that AJ is retiring next week on Raw, or at least we hope not, and it's possible that the 2 former world champions have a series of matches culminating in a WrestleMania classic. Well, that was good. What about the bad? Is number 1, the Stranger Things special. A Raw last night acted as a crossover between WWE and Stranger Things. This collab made a lot of sense as both shows are on the same platform. However, the logic of doing this special show when Stranger Things is already finished has been brought into question. Whilst the staging was cool and the barricades were wrapped around in the vines from the Upside Down world, the show did little to promote the Supernatural series. Whilst the set was appreciated again, WWE could have done a lot more with the idea. I mean, there was not a single person from the Stranger Things show that actually appeared on Raw, not even as a guest in the crowd. There were no special entrances, no themed gear, no themed matches, nothing that would actually really collab with the show itself. I mean, this was a perfect night to have Demon Finn Balor come back, but we didn't even get that either. It's unlikely that anyone who hasn't seen Stranger Things is going to come away from Raw wanting to see the show. You know, the show that's already finished now. Number 2, a new champion already? Oh, it's official, Maxine Dupri's women's intercontinental title reign is over already. Dupri dropped the title in a somewhat disappointing match versus Becky Lynch, and fans are questioning what was the point in WWE putting the title on Dupri in the first place. It appears that on paper at least that WWE are planning Lynch versus AJ Lee at WrestleMania, but does this really need to be a title match? Number 3, where the hell was Jericho? Fans firmly expected Chris Jericho to return during the main event of Raw last night, and this likely influenced how insanely quiet the crowd was throughout the match. Now, obviously Jericho didn't show up, and this has left a dampener on the show as a whole. The show was heavily hyped for it being an anniversary special, but the show just failed to deliver the goods. And what's next for Bron Breakker? Oh, it's somewhat of a surprise that WWE really didn't put the world title on Bron Breakker last night. Breakker had the help of his Vision stablemates, but still couldn't get the job done. Some may argue that this has influenced his credibility as a top star, and it's easy to see the merit of this argument. But what's really next for Bron Breakker? Well, we'll check on that in the news. Now, whilst the show was certainly disappointing, labeling the show as downright ugly would be unfair. Not every show can hit a home run, however, with WWE generating so much hype for the show last night, it's understandable why there's a ton of disappointment and anger. What would you guys think of the Stranger Things WWE Netflix special? Let us know in the comments down below. Now let's move on to the news. Now, first story looks at the truth behind Chris Jericho's WWE return. Now, a top story today asks, where on earth was Chris Jericho last night on Raw? Fans firmly expected the wrestling legend to return during Raw last night, and despite numerous teasers of the chance, it never occurred. It's been widely reported that Jericho is indeed returning to the company, but what exactly is happening here? Well, according to a new report from Fightful Select, they aren't willing to even report that Jericho will be back in WWE in any capacity. To be clear, Fightful has not reported nor confirmed that Chris Jericho will be on Raw tonight, or even that he'll be back in WWE at this point. We can't exactly control what other outlets report, but upon a wave of Chris Jericho's contract as officially retired posts from engagement accounts, we wouldn't go so quickly on that. As things stand, Jericho is still listed as an active AEW roster member, and AEW are refusing to answer if Jericho has re-signed with the company. AEW is usually very particular about their roster page, as indicated by removing the 3 names who had their deals expire today. We asked AEW reps in an official capacity if Jericho was still in the company, and they did not respond. We're told that AEW has a great relationship with Chris Jericho, but we're also aware that their audience had grown tired of him, which led to his absence from All Elite Wrestling television. And the biggest shock of all is that WWE sources are claiming that no creative pitches have been made for Jericho, so it appears that nobody knows what's going on when it comes to the first ever WWE Undisputed Champion. When we spoke to WWE sources, they said that Chris Jericho has not been brought up creatively as of yet, and that it was not factored into the plans for tonight's Raw that they had seen. There was the obligatory, it wouldn't be the first time we got work too. So far, Chris Jericho has not been seen at the venue of tonight's WWE Raw. Now, it is indeed entirely possible that WWE are working everyone. However, from AEW's perspective, there's little to gain by promoting Jericho as an active talent and refusing to address whether he remains in the company. In terms of when we should expect Jericho to resurface on television, the Royal Rumble is a likely destination. It would be unlike WWE to tease Jericho's return ahead of time, but the Rumble is just a few weeks away, so any marketing and promotional campaigns need to begin immediately. Next up, the real reason why CM Punk retained. Why did CM Punk retain the world title last night on Raw? Well, it may have been seen as too early to put the world title on Bron Breakker. Breakker has only had 200 matches or so in the company, and some may argue that he's just not ready yet. But it's entirely possible that WWE is holding off on Breakker winning the world title until WrestleMania, which of course means we can't rule out the idea of Breakker winning the Royal Rumble at the end of the month. Another factor was that this was Punk's first defense since he won the world title, and Punk losing the world title so soon may have influenced Punk's credibility, especially as we head into the most important season of the year. Another reason is that Seth Rollins could be back in time for WrestleMania. If this is the case, then a Rollins vs Bron Breakker match with Paul Heyman in the middle can't be ruled out. If this occurs, then this leaves Punk with numerous options for opponents including AJ Styles and Gunther. Next up, an injured star was at Raw. Speaking of Seth Rollins, he's currently out of action with a serious injury, but this didn't stop Rollins from attending Raw last night. Fightful Select reported that Rollins was backstage at the show, and this naturally led to speculation that Rollins was going to appear on the show in some capacity and even cost Bron Breakker the world title. That didn't occur, but Rollins has a habit of attending shows despite his injury, and he likely spent the duration of Raw in the gorilla position, helping out and giving out advice. Next up, WWE making major creative changes. The WWE has decided to shake things up when it comes to their respective creative teams for Raw and SmackDown. According to PW Insider Elite, Triple H remains in charge of WWE Creative, with Bruce Pritchard and Ed Koskey playing pivotal roles. With WWE nearing the second season of WWE Unreal, we've been asked by a number of Elite subscribers how the flow of WWE Creative currently works. Obviously, Paul Levesque is at the top of the pyramid and gets the last call. Bruce Pritchard and Ed Koskey have tenured voices and handle the operations for the company's creative department. A report adds that Ryan Ward is overseeing Raw and SmackDown, with Road Dogg still working on the Blue brand. We are told that currently Ryan Ward is overseeing the creative agenda for both Raw and SmackDown, described to PW Insider Elite as a recent adjustment. On the SmackDown side, Road Dogg, Brian James and John Sotaka would be the co-leads for the creative process. On the Raw side, Alexandra Williams is now co-lead with Jonathan Bakestrom. Some of these names, particularly Triple H and Pritchard, are expected to feature heavily in WWE Unreal Season 2, which debuts later this month. Next up, the reason behind 2 WWE title changes. Last night's Raw featured 2 distinct title changes. When it comes to the women's tag titles, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky won the titles, and the likely reason for this is that it kicked off Raw with a bang and finally gave the decorated tag team a run with the titles. But in relation to Becky Lynch winning the Women's Intercontinental title, this appears to be done in order to set up a WrestleMania match versus AJ Lee. However, little is currently known regarding AJ's WWE status, as she's mysteriously disappeared once again after a match at Survivor Series War Games. Next up, is Stephanie Vaquer's injury real? WWE are moving forward with an injury angle with Stephanie Vaquer. Last night on Raw, the reigning world champion would appear with her foot in a protective boot before she was then attacked by Raquel Rodriguez. But is this injury real? Well, it does appear that this is a kayfabe injury, and Vaquer seems to be perfectly fine. It's unlikely that WWE would allow Vaquer to be involved in so much physicality if the injury was legitimate. With that being said, Vaquer hasn't wrestled at any of the recent WWE live events, which does suggest that she may be working hurt in some capacity. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out, but the likelihood is that this is building to one final match between Vaquer and her arch nemesis. Next up, has Stone Cold given up beer? Stone Cold Steve Austin recently addressed a long-standing rumor that he's completely given up drinking beer. During an interview on Insight with Chris Van Vliet, Austin confronted the speculation that he no longer enjoys drinking beer like he used to in his WWE days.
Yes, I still drink beer, but just, it's kind of like the old timers used to come up to you in the dressing room when you first started breaking into business. Kid, you got to pick your spots. You don't take all those bumps. So yeah, these days you don't need all those hangovers. You pick your spots. Friday night is kind of like I still eat and watch what I eat pretty strictly. So Friday is usually my beer night when I'll have a couple IPAs, and that's when I pick my spot.
Now, Austin also laughed off the viral meme that showed him holding a wine glass with his wife, and he explained that he genuinely enjoys drinking wine. It seems that the rumor that Austin has given up beer for good is totally inaccurate. He's just drinking more responsibly. And finally, another NXT call-up. Our final story today looks at another potential NXT call-up, and it's a big name to say the very least. Whilst WWE confirmed the main roster signing of Javon Evans last night, according to Fightful Select, Blake Monroe could be set up for a call-up, and she may end up on the Red brand. Another NXT talent that could be on their way up to the main roster. Fightful Select Sean Ross Sapp has learned that Blake Monroe has been discussed for a WWE main roster call-up. We're told that the move has been talked about in the recent weeks, with some on the Raw brand believing she will end up there. There was also a discussion that immediate plans with Blake Monroe could be changing, including as soon as this week. Monroe is an outstanding talent, and it was only a matter of time before she was called up to the main roster. With that being said, it's a surprise that WWE aren't allocating her to SmackDown. The Blue brand is in dire need of talent, and Raw is already stacked. Inserting Monroe into the Raw Women's division increases the risk of her being lost in the shuffle, whereas on SmackDown, she would be one of the top names in the division upon her initial debut. But there you have it, folks, our look at Raw, as well as the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.